So, continuing to reflect about the awakening factors of piti and passaddhi, or joy and tranquility. All of the 7 factors of awakening, it occurs to me, are wholesome states of mind, are factors that would color the state of mind. So, citta, or the state of mind, would be affected by mindfulness or affected by the absence of mindfulness, and so on for the other factors of awakening. That is mindfulness, the investigation of dhammas, energy, joy or piti, tranquility or passaddhi, and concentration or samadhi, and equanimity or upekkha. I was, I've been glancing around and listening and reading to what others have to say, and I was a little bit startled to see a teacher who I respect quite a lot qualifying piti, or joy, as being an emotion. So, does anybody know the difference between an emotion and a feeling? Well, emotion is not really a word that occurs in the early Buddhist text. So, but as I understand it from modern theory, that emotion is a kind of a compounded phenomenon that includes some aspects of perception, some aspects of sankhara, or mental formations, or volitional formations, some aspects of feeling, and usually also having some kind of manifestation in the body. So just in general, as a shorthand, I think the early Buddhist commentary, like in the Visuddhimagga, they do qualify piti as being a sankhara. That's a mental formation, and I think maybe this is the reason why my respected colleague qualified it as an emotion. So this kind of got me thinking about all of the factors of awakening. Emotion has got one characteristic that people don't usually feel in control of their emotions. Emotion is just something that happens to them. And very often when we think of emotion, we might think of afflictive emotions, like a hatred or upset or grief or sorrow or anxiety, different things like that. And then when we begin to get involved with Buddhism and start to practice, we might remember that love is also an emotion, one of the strong ones. And loving kindness, the pure feeling of loving kindness, which intends for the happiness of beings without any element of greed being involved with it, is a very pure emotion. Likewise, compassion, this sympathetic joy and equanimity and the four Brahmaviharas, definitely you could say those are emotions. And then we enter into, or I should say for myself, when I was, years ago, I used to be more interested in emotions than I am now, because I had a temperament, a very emotional temperament. It seemed for some time to me as if I had 101 different kinds of negative and afflictive emotions, and only these 4 positive emotions were approved of in Buddhism. And it seemed like a very difficult training to undertake, to just cultivate those 4. But then later, when I began to appreciate the 7 awakening factors, it's like these are, I don't know if we could call them emotion, or you could call them a state of mind, but these are things that, they're not intellectual ideas. They're more like heart qualities, are like head and heart qualities together, like chittas like states of mind, which are beneficial and safe, and which are good to be cultivated. If we can catch a hold of these factors in their pure form, then we can give ourselves into cultivating and developing them, making them continuous. We don't have to be fearful about having like too much mindfulness. There's really not such a thing as too much mindfulness. Mindfulness is always a good medicine for any kind of circumstance. And then I began to think again about these 7 factors in terms of what are they good for. So it's like emotions usually have a purpose that's related to protecting the existence of the individual. Grief has a definite function. This is opposite to one of the wholesome ones. When a person has been injured and harmed and hurt, and they're suffering from that, especially the social manifestation of grief is a kind of a cry for help. It's a sort of a message that's saying, I'm really sensitive right now, please don't hurt me. Just don't be cross with me because I'm too sensitive, I can't take any more pain. And in a way, the gamut of emotions relating to desire, like the pleasures and things like that, are relating to facilitating, enabling us to have the energy to go get something good for our existence. And then the emotions that are aversive are helping us to avoid and protect ourselves from something that would be harmful to our existence. So then, like a mindfulness is good for what? I could say mindfulness is good for being present, for staying awake and alert in the here and now, being present to what's coming up for our experiences. Actually, I'm going to the gallery now. I would invite your answer. What is mindfulness good for? When you're mindful, what are you able to do more easily? Okay, Elaine. Okay, Elaine and then Sheila.
When I'm being mindful, it gives me time to pause and think about what I'm doing instead of just reacting.
Okay, so you can stop going on automatic and come to awareness. Good, thank you. Sheila.
I would say that mindfulness is good for everything, like Elaine, in even the most innocuous or mundane activities, and things don't have to be the big items, but in the smallest activity or function, mindfulness plays a role.
Okay, so mindfulness brings a certain value to the ordinary small things. Very good. Okay, there's a comment from Aranya Bodhi.
It's very powerful for deeply listening, including to oneself.
Okay, very good. And Maitri.
Mindfulness is into the four right efforts.
Yes, because you can't do the right efforts unless you know what your state is. So you have to know it first before you can exert the four right efforts. Yeah, very good. A comment from Aranya Bodhi and then Damon.
Mindfulness, it seems to be have a lot. Mindfulness, it seems to be get so much beneficence, and it bring more energy, and even it's slow on any action of you do it, but it's helpful a lot. It's helpful to release all the stress. This is what in my experience, it let go on all the stress and the anger. Because when you practice mindfulness a little bit at a time, you focus on every single thing that you're doing. Holding a cup, brush your teeth. Sometimes it's split away on something, but when you regularly practice this in practice well, the beneficial that I see for myself, it's so beneficial. And to me, it's very good for me to forget all the past that I usually have. It become more light.
Very good.
So, and the energy, even you work a lot, this energy will be maintained in yourself, because the things that you do with your mindful is different. You not grab this one and then you let go, and then because you forgot. But you mindful, you do one at a time. And even you forgot, you still remember that you drop it somewhere, and how do you drop? You more investigation of the life, of the action. That's all I can share.
So during the remaining minutes, I'm going to be inviting comments about each of the 7 factors of awakening. What is this factor good for? And so just to pace yourself, because mindfulness covers everything. Like when you say mindfulness gives you energy, that's true, but energy is another factor, so it's going to come back again. Now I'm going to invite Damon's answer about what mindfulness is good for, and I think there might be a comment from the Watt after that. Damon.
Well, you started off by asking what protective quality. You mentioned grief in terms of its protective quality, and I was wondering, first of all, if there was an answer that you were looking for about mindfulness. But and I really appreciate everyone's comments. I would just add that mindfulness, my experience, is being able to see the rise and fall and impermanence of the cliches of the afflictive emotions has given me so much relief from those afflictive emotions by seeing their impermanence, and thereby giving me a chance not to cling to them. Mindfulness has been such a gift in that regard. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, let's continue in this discussion format. Is there a comment from the Watt?
The what?
Hey, Aya.
Yes, hello.
This is Carl. I just feel that mindfulness means so much. It's like the answer to so many things. So it makes me a better employee at work, makes me a better brother, a better son, in all the roles I engage myself in. And so what the man that previously said, I can second that. That is just beautiful. You know, it just how it's changed my life. It's been an affordable option versus going to all these seminars and this, that, and the other. But just the simple technique of using that in meditation is so profound.
Rawanti and then Ren.
Thank you, Aya. So the mindfulness has given me the power not to react to situations in an emotional manner, but to respond in a more skillful way.
Thank you. I was going to bring up about mindfulness is very close to heedfulness, or appamado, and sati are sometimes similar concepts. So heedfulness is that kind of like a protection from going off the deep end and making a mistake because of our, just pausing for that full awareness. It does give that kind of protection also. Ren.
Thank you. I appreciate when mindfulness help me keep things simple and fresh. When I feel certain feelings, to be mindful of the feeling as it comes up and as it passed through me, thus preventing it from being compounded into emotions. Mm-hmm. And I like that simplicity of it when it happened.
Yeah. Okay. Richard.
Thank you. Can I first say, can you bring your microphone a little closer?
Yes, my voice
is
my voice is kind of weak today. I'm sorry.
Oh, I see. Okay, maybe that's what it is. But that's much better. So in the beginning of the Satipatthana Sutta, the Blessed One said this: Bhikkhus, this is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for the attainment of the true way, for the realization of Nibbana, namely the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So, and when one attains the 4th jhana, Buddha says that that's purification of mindfulness. So it seems to me that what the Buddha is saying is that mindfulness is the whole key to attaining Nibbana and ending dukkha. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And indeed, we're looking at mindfulness as the leader in the foundation, in the factors of awakening. Let's look at each one of these factors and see how each one has got a little different, is adding another element, or it's another, putting another vegetable into the soup, or another piece of something that's being pulled together until you've got a combination that is actually able to hold and keep all of these factors together. And when all of them are present, and I believe they can be all present, then we really have got the chance to make some progress along this pathway. The next one is called investigation of dhammas, or sometimes called curiosity. Being able, in particular, to look within and to notice our own inner process, the mental process, how the mind works, and also examining the teachings of the Buddha in terms of how our own direct experience is matching up with those teachings, how we can discover the truth of those teachings by examining our own experience. So then, what does this curiosity make us do? What is the curiosity good for? How does curiosity help us along the way if we're striving for our awakening? Okay, Sheila.
For me, it helps me reflect and think about causes and conditions of whatever the situation is that has arisen. And I'm able to pull back the layers, and that's a continual process. So it's not like a one-time deal. And as something comes up, it may be 2 or 3 weeks later when there are other aspects, and that I may be reading something or doing something, and there is an insight into whatever that issue was that I began to investigate previously.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Maitri.
The focus on Dhamma, which I feel is directed towards understanding anicca and anatta.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and dukkha. All 3 marks can be investigated. Indeed, some of the greatest practitioners have spent years just looking at anicca and anatta and making that that investigation an aspect. You know, for myself, I find that my faith, they say that the faith factor and the investigation factor are sort of 2 opposite ends of the spectrum, but investigation makes me much more faithful, because when I look into it, I can find out how true the teachings are in my own experience. And then I can really integrate it. they say that the virya, the right effort, again, I would almost, we can think of right effort or investigation in a more intellectual way as a mental factor, but also I think it's very interesting to reflect, like, how does it feel when this curiosity, this investigation of Dhamma is present? How does it feel when I'm interested? Which is, the opposite of being not interested, not caring. And then with the right effort, how does it feel when energy is present as opposed to laziness? So, we're doing this meditation, which involves sitting still and just watching the mind and making the mind as still as possible. And even somebody who was not being skillful could just become very passive. They could have a pleasant lifetime knowing how to sit and make the mind quiet. But if they don't have the factor of virya, then they're missing something. So I'm really throwing it to you. What are they missing? What does this energy factor bring out, which is essential if our practice is going to lead to enlightenment, if we're really practicing for awakening? Why do we need energy? What is energy doing for us? What is energy helping us to do? Okay, Damon.
I don't know. I feel like there's a right answer you're looking for, and I'm reluctant to give an answer because it's probably going to be the wrong one.
Oh, no, I don't want the right answers. I mean, I don't mind if someone wants to give the right answer, they can. But I'm much more impressed when somebody gives an authentic answer based on their own experience.
Okay, I'm just reflecting on when you originally went over this, and you were working off of this Piyadasa commentary, and I took that very much to heart, and it said things like that this path is not for the indolent. One has to maintain zeal. And so I just felt that there are times when this path is really not easy, and without that energy or that virya that you speak of, for me, I would just really I would just give up hope. Why bother? It's so arduous, this path.
Thank you. That's a wonderful answer. So fruitful to have something from your own experience. And actually, for me, when I have found at different times in my life feeling that the path was too difficult or too arduous, very often it was because I had encountered some kind of a block. It's like some problem that I didn't yet know how to deal with it. And it was just a block, and I would just kind of stop and not want to go forward. And so then exerting the energy helps to work through that. Even if it means even before finding out how to solve, what kind of a mental block is or a lack of understanding is present, just being persistent and doing the procedures, just going to the cushion, just sitting on the cushion for the amount of time that I decided that I was going to do as my daily practice, and doing that without fail, even though I would sometimes fail again and again and again, because of not yet knowing how to, not yet being mature in the practice, but I would at least show up. And there are many other ways in which the right effort, in a way, is helping us to at least get into the right space where there's a chance for different kinds of insight to arise.
Thank you.
I see from Aranya Bodhi, there's an answer. You have to be unmuted. Yeah, I think you're.
Oh, I was going to say that
There.
so it can support focus as well as a certain kind of positive reinforcement. I feel like it builds on itself, energy.
One thing that I love about the energy factor in the right effort is that instead of always being negative towards ourselves and trying to control our bad qualities, we realize that we must also have some good qualities. And having the effort to bring those good qualities to light and to cultivate and help them to grow also makes the whole practice so much more balanced, that it's not all one thing or the other. Okay, Sheila.
And to that, it seems like our Western society, we've been groomed with either or thinking. And if we attempt something and aren't successful or lose our way, there's all this judgment, and then there's the I'm not a good person, or whatever that mind is, that thought. And so having to literally relearn a way of being, that's how studying and practicing has been for me, is to really shed so much of conditioned thought that was someone else's, that was, I learned through society, family, school, work, etc. So it does take a lot of effort, and I agree with Damon, where you do have to see every small insight and as growth, and it doesn't have to be this big successful. You graduated with a PhD, and so now you're somebody. There are these small, as the Ayah at Aranya Bodhi said, these very small opportunities in everyday life, and when you see those, that is a really good feeling, no matter how small.
Thank you. I want to move along to this PET. Now, here is a case where the discussion that we had last Sunday, I invited people to give their ideas about the difference between pleasure, which is a danger of being infected with greed, as opposed to happiness, which is a safe and desirable quality to be cultivated. And the answers that were given were really useful, really beneficial. It does seem to me that wholesome joy, that wholesome happiness that is coming, evolving out of the mindfulness, the curiosity, and the energy arising, that those things together can be just the ground for this experience. Wow, this just very pleasant, enjoyable, uplifting experience to be of kind of safe happiness, the kind of happiness that is actually a factor for our awakening. And now the question or the theme for tonight is, what does this bliss or this rapture or this powerful, deep happiness from within, which has got those qualities of stability and not instability. It has the quality of not being dependent on any external object, but just something that comes from within. How does that joy help keep us going forward? What does that joy do for us? What is that joy good for? And now I would like to hear your answers, preferably sincere ones. They can also be ones that are in accord with the teachings of the Buddha. What is happiness good for? Okay, Rohanti.
So the happiness, what it does for me is it builds more confidence towards the Buddha and the teachings.
Yes, very good. The path should be good in the middle, good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Yeah. Damon.
Yeah, again, reflecting on the Piyadasa commentary, this type of happiness he distinguishes from the usual term, which is the worldly happiness of sensuality. So for me, really, it has been nice to see that, to be able to derive joy and contentment from something other than sensual pleasure. I'm just starting to be able to get, that I could see that just hearing the Dhamma, coming to Sutta study, having spiritual friendship, are ways to derive some form of happiness, which are non-material. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that for me, again, going back to my early years in meditation, because of having so many afflictive emotions, I was a specialist in dukkha for the first few years when I was a Buddhist. And, well, I was getting definite relief from suffering as a result of this practice. That's what kept me going on it. Then at the same time, meditation for a long time was a challenge to just be able to stay on the object of meditation because of, I'll say, afflictive emotions at that time. But then when the joy in meditation began to be an aspect of it, then it was possible to stay, to come to the object of meditation, come to the breath or whatever the theme of the meditation was, and to just land on that object and stay there. And that stability in a meditation practice, this is like it's not a big psychological thing, and it's not a big spiritual thing. It's kind of like a practical thing for trying to build up some time, and they build up the hours in meditation practice, that when there's something shifts, and instead of being kind of like difficult and frustrating to try to be still and stay for the meditation hour, instead it's this experience of just the pleasantness of meditation that kind of like opens the door and makes it possible to stay. That's what I'm saying, to connect and to stay. And then so many other things like mindfulness and investigation and energy, all of those things are also supported, because when the joy or the happiness is there, then the mind is not wanting to, jump away from it. The mind wants to stay there, wants to stay present. Now I'll call in Maitri and then Sheila.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, that for me, happiness reduces the agitation, the incessant back and forth of the mind, and helps settle the mind, and helps with serenity, settling down.
Yes, thank you. Perfect. Sheila?
As you were speaking, the image of a child learning to ride a bike came to mind. And I remember not only my own experience, but watching other children, particularly going from a bicycle with training wheels to riding a bicycle without training wheels. And there's a lot of effort in maintaining and getting that balance, and just so many different mindfulness of the body and controlling the bicycle. And then the day when you jump on the bike and your parent or guardian takes those training wheels off, and you successfully, or the child successfully, is able to ride down the sidewalk, I can recall the joy that I personally felt and see when children are able to be successful in that way. And that's the thought that came to me as you were speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Ren?
To me, happiness is having some success in not living solely too much in my mind. And when I was able to associate anxiety mostly, or fear, with certain physical sensation in my body, and from that being able to pull and disperse that energy away from the actual physical body, and therefore feeling less anxiety. And that connection and the release is happiness. That big sky feeling that, God, I'm not anxious is happiness to me.
Great, thank you. I want to continue this discussion by looking at tranquility, which in particular, I think Ren's comment is almost pointing exactly to what it seems like tranquility is, that when an ordinary person in their ordinary state of mind, driven or pulled and pushed around by emotions, running from one desire to another desire and so forth, or running away from some danger to another, from another danger. So then this is manifesting in a lot of bodily tension and unease in the physical body. And then there's something that rebalances when we can experience that the body has dropped a whole level of tension. This tranquilization, this relaxation. I know that I've read elsewhere, teacher Montague says that like when we're experiencing piety or extreme joy and happiness, the mind gets tired of it's too much excitement and the mind just wants to rest, and then it goes from piety to passaddhi. And likewise, within the formal jhana, it's sort of like certain factors are positive factors, but eventually the mind just wants more quietness and more quietness. But I don't necessarily, in this case, taking this tranquility as a factor of awakening, it's not just the absence of excitement. It's something that's a definite, something definite that can be experienced. And it's going down the road towards equanimity. It's not yet equanimity. This is just the body and the body-mind together are able to relax, able to let go of agitation and arrive at a state of calmness, which is not the same thing as being lazy or de-energized or sleepy or blanked out or anything like that. It's a state which is fully mindful, fully curious, something that has contains energy, but the energy has been somehow transformed so that it's like an energy without stress, a tranquil energy. What is that? What is it to have now they could say in other different teachings, they teach that tranquility and energy are sort of balancing factors. And so that if you find on a particular set of meditation, you're too much energized, that you're too wound up, then you will not do a practice to increase your energy. Instead, you do a practice to increase your tranquility. And likewise, if you come to the meditation and you're feeling sleepy and dull, you wouldn't just do a practice to increase tranquility. At that point, you do a practice to build up energy. So in that sense, like tranquility all by itself is not the answer. But maybe I'm saying that tranquility has the function to take care of the excess of energy and to come to a balance. You could say, you could relate tranquility to equilibrium, something that has equilibrium. It's like that child on the bicycle, they're balanced. They're not going this way, they're not going that way. They're just balanced, going down the middle. So I invite your ideas from your own experience. What makes for tranquility to be a positive factor, to be a factor of awakening? What is it in tranquility? What is tranquility doing for us that makes it a factor of awakening? What is tranquility good for? Okay, Elaine.
I think for myself, tranquility just helps me to keep from getting engaged in a lot of things that I would have before that I thought were caring, and which are really just drama. And yeah, that's
At the what is oops.
Hi. So in the Anapanasati Sutra, they talk about the practice of gladdening the mind. So I was thinking that maybe tranquility would help gladden the mind if you're going through certain states and you're trying to control or allow for certain states to happen. Is that right?
Yes, for both the breath, you are aware of the breath and then tranquilize the breath. You're aware of the feelings and then tranquilize the feelings. You're aware of the states of mind, tranquilize the states of mind. And so definitely for calming the mind. And tranquility is really good for stillness. And stillness is really good for insight. Elaine.
when I got to the point where my mind is relatively calm and I started focusing on the body, like doing body scans and that, I never really liked doing them. Then one day I realized, I think we were talking about joy and I realized that there was a physical pain around my heart. And I thought, of course, you're not taking care of that aspect of yourself, right? I felt like an insight, like something that I'd been just pushing away and overlooking, because I was tranquil enough. I could see that, oh, okay, that's another layer that I have to look at.
Right. So acceptance, to accept reality, to accept it's like your body or your subconscious or your thoughts or something are like trying to tell you something, but you can't hear it unless you can listen, and you have to be tranquil in order to hear. Dear friends, we've come up to the end of our time, and it's perfect in a way, because the next time we return to these factors of awakening, we'll be speaking about samadhi and upekkha, the last two of the factors of awakening. I want to remind everybody that there's a program, a special program at Dhammadharini this Saturday coming. That's July 2nd. No, it's, what day is it?
The 29th.
29.
June 29th. June 29th, we're having Dhamma Day at the monastery. July 29th. is Dhamma Day at the monastery. And then the day after that is July 30. We'll have our regular programs on July 30, but there's going to be a special feature this time. You'll have a chance to think if you'd like to follow any special adhitthana or make a special resolution for the 3 months of the Vasa retreat that you would like to add to your practice in order to improve yourself in whatever way you wish to. So part of the program next Sunday is going to be focusing on having a chance to make an adhitthana. And I know that, Sheila and Damon undertook precepts and received, well, Sheila received a nice certificate, and Damon, I don't have your mailing address, so that's why I didn't mail you your certificate. So if you take an adhitthana for the 3 months of the Vasa, something you'd like to do more consistently or more better, we will email you a beautiful image of a Bodhi leaf with a beautiful blank space in the middle in which you can write down your resolution. And then you can put your Bodhi leaf with your resolution next to your certificate, or you could send them in to us and we'll hang them up somewhere, and appreciate that people have made those kind of resolutions. So those are the things coming up next week. Let's come together and pay respects to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sangham Namami. Thank you for this lovely discussion and for your patient listening and your good practice.
Thank you so much, Aya.
Thank you, Aya. 3 bows.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Aya. And thank you for all the people who had something to say. It was very interesting and helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Aya.